Alrighty, we got our camshafts all in and torqued down. Now we need to go ahead and put our camshaft timing device on to hold it in place. This is the kit that I have right here. It's made specifically for the N14. You've got your 3 regular bolts. You've got this Allen head bolt that holds this bracket on here, and these are actually the 2 bars that lock in the camshafts. It's made by Coke Tools. It's a KT20316, and specifically for the BMW Mini N14. So we'll go ahead and put that on. Now, one of the things you're going to need is you're going to need a 27mm wrench in order to grab a hold of this camshaft sprocket in the back here, because this is going to slide onto the flats here of the camshaft, and we want our markings on the camshaft to be up. So as you can see, they're facing towards me, and the locking tool is not going to fit. So we'll have to rotate this until it locks down. Alright, so then we'll take one of the bolts and we're going to bolt this down.
In my car? That's probably the guy that made my car her home for the night. Yep.
Hey man, imagine your car was this high good.
Alright, well, we're back. We got the camshafts installed and torqued down, and I'm installing the locking bracket. And what you'll find once you bolt everything down is that invariably your timing marks are not going to be in the right position. So what I use is a 27mm open end wrench, and there's hexes right here on the back next to the end of the camshaft, and you can use that to turn and position the camshaft so that you can put your locking device on. And once you get it in place, then what you do, you don't have to tighten it down real tight because it's just holding it in place. That's 10mm. And take this piece, and you put it on with the Allen head to hold the whole thing in place there. And now it's ready for continuing to put the rest of the motor back together. We got our fuel rail in back here, so we can start hooking up stuff here in the back, the intake manifold, some of the wiring and stuff that goes on the back of the engine here, and we can start putting the stuff on here on the back, the water thermostat housing, the high pressure fuel pump, and the vacuum pump. So we'll get everything tightened up here, and then we'll be right back. Alright, so we're back. As you can see, we've got everything bolted down for the camshaft locked. Everything is locked in place, and I reinstalled the intake Vanos controller here, and also put the wiring harness on for that, and all 4 of my injectors and the regulator here, plug that in. There's other wires here that we're going to put in once we get the intake in, and then these 2 things here, these 2 things actually attach to the bottom of the intake manifold, so we'll put those on when we put the intake manifold on. So right now I'm cleaning up the intake manifold. I've taken the throttle body off of it and cleaned as much of the inside of this as I can to get. There's a little bit of oil in there. It wasn't too bad. There is a little bit of stuff in there, so I'm going to finish cleaning that out. And the same thing with the throttle body. And I got my new gasket on here. It comes with the gasket set. And I figured I had it. I might as well go ahead and take this opportunity to clean everything out. And you have this little holder right here. It actually slides down in here like so and holds the throttle body in. So before you can take the throttle body off, you have to slide that off, and then the throttle body will come out. But there was nothing wrong with my throttle body or anything like that, so I just wiped it out and cleaned it real good. And I'm gonna change the gasket out, put it back on, and then I'll be ready to mount the intake manifold back on to the car. So I'll be right back once I get everything put back together, and I'll have the torque values for the throttle body, and also have to change out my gaskets for the intake manifold. So I'll be right back. Alright, we're back. As you can see, we've put the new gaskets on the intake manifold, and now I'm ready to torque these down. I got my inch-pound torque wrench here. The Chilton says if it's a used intake manifold to torque them to 61 inch-pounds. If it's a new one, it's I believe 81. So this is used, so I'm taking it down to 61 inch-pounds, which is not very much. Alright. And also, as you can see, we got the little white clip back on. So now I think we're just about ready to go ahead and mount this onto the engine. And let me get set up for the next shot and be right back. Alright, so now we need to go ahead and get the thermostat housing on and the high pressure fuel pump on, because we have to attach it to the fuel rail before we put the intake manifold on. So right now we're going to go ahead and put the thermostat housing on, and I went ahead and got a new one. I don't know that there was anything wrong with the old one, but I already had it apart. This is not that expensive, so I said, well, I might as well, while I got the coolant drained and everything, go ahead and put a new one in. So what we're going to do is we are going to get a little bit of grease or a little bit of oil, and we're going to put a little bit of oil on this or grease on this O-ring right here. This right here, this is the one that slides into the pipe in the back, and then slide this up under here. And we press it into the I'll go ahead and start one of these bolts just to hold the thermostat housing in place. But we have to slide this thermostat housing into the tube in the back. We'll go ahead and get these bolts started. As I said, whenever I started taking this thing apart, all the things that I read was that there's supposed to be like a retaining ring that holds this onto that pipe. However, my vehicle didn't have that, so you get a ratchet over here. Go ahead and get these started. Alright, so now we're going to run this down. Run it down evenly so we get good seal on that pipe in the rear. We got that. We got that on there, and we're going to torque that to 71 inch-pounds. We'll set up our torque wrench. We'll go around and torque them. Doesn't take much, it's got a good little seal on it. Alright, and they're good to the water pipe. So now we'll need to work on getting this high pressure fuel pump back in place like it's supposed to go. Alright, well, I'm going to get a few more things together here, and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back, and now we're ready to go ahead and put the high pressure fuel pump on. Went ahead and bought a new fuel line. That's what the Chilton's manual says you're supposed to do when you anytime you remove the high pressure fuel pump or line, you're supposed to put a brand new fuel line on, a hard metal fuel line. Now, I don't know if that's just a marketing gimmick to get people to spend money on a new line. It's just basically a common flare fitting, so I don't know how the flares could go bad, but you are talking about several thousand psi fuel pressure. So I think my fuel line, I think it was like 50 bucks or so. I got it torn down this much. I'm just going to go ahead and do what the book recommends. So we're going to go ahead and put this thing in position, and what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to rotate, if you can see it, where it connects to the camshaft. Right here, we're going to have to rotate it to it actually fits in the back of the camshaft. So got that rotated. Just a little bit more. And once you get it in there, then go ahead and put your bolts in. Now, for some reason, these bolts happen to be Torx. I don't know why, but they are. So, I'm going to go ahead and thread these bolts in. Get my Torx socket. I think they're a T30. When I was taking this apart, in order to get one of these back ones, I'm pretty sure I had to I had to take my Torx bit out of the socket. So basically I'm just going to put this in here where it's almost all the way run down, just to get it in position. Now that figures. I had to remove the bit from the socket because the place where you have to go in there and put it in is just too small. So I went ahead and took the socket out of the original 3/8 drive holder and put it in this 1/4 inch holder. So I can go ahead and spin this down. Same thing back here. Alright, so I'm going to leave it a little bit loose so that we can fit the new pipe on. And here's the new pipe right here. As you can see, original BMW. And there is actually a torque value for this. I don't know exactly how you would get it to work if you don't have a torque wrench made especially to put this on. But there's actually 3 steps to it. First, you torque it to 132 inch-pounds, then to 24 foot-pounds, and then check it at 24 foot-pounds again after you've run the engine for 5 minutes. So now that our high pressure fuel pump is still a little loose, what we're going to do is we're going to just loosely fit this tube in place. Sometimes you have to wiggle it around and everything, but I'm going to go ahead and got that down finger tight. So now that that's on there, finger tight, we can go ahead and tighten it up. It's a 12 millimeter. I always use a flare nut wrench. Okay. And tighten the one on the fuel rail. And come back. Tighten it again. We'll just have to check it, make sure it's not leaking after I end up firing this thing up. But the high pressure fuel pump bolts, they go down to 96 inch-pounds. So that's what we're going to do here, 96 inch-pounds. So we're going to adjust this. All right. try to put this back together, I'm trying to put it back together from the bottom up. So I went ahead and attached the two heater hoses. That were attached underneath the underneath the high pressure fuel pump. That way I would have a lot easier time getting that tightened up. And I replaced the original factory style hose clamps with regular old-fashioned worm drive clamps. I think they seal better and they're a heck of a lot easier to take off and on. So, alright, so we got our high pressure fuel pump on. The fuel line's tightened down. We'll go back and we'll check it once we fire it up. And then now we're ready to do a little bit more work on the other side. We'll get busy and getting everything together and be right back. Okay, well, we went ahead and put these radiator hoses on. As you can see, changed it out to worm drive clamps. Worm drive clamped this right here, but I'm going to leave it loose because this is the coolant, one of the coolant lines that goes to the turbo. Went ahead and installed the oil pressure sensor here. This is actually a 3/4 inch. I used a oxygen sensor socket that I had to put this in. Now we're ready to put in this vacuum pump. I would highly recommend changing this out. It's not a very expensive part, but it has had a tendency to fail, and when it fails, it does cause catastrophic engine failure, because when it locks up, as you can see, it's driven off of the exhaust cam right here, but when it locks up, it tries to lock up the exhaust side of the engine. It can break the timing chain, and of course, if you break the timing chain, you jump time, bend all the valves, and start over again. But I want to show you something. Over here, I've got my new one, and I've got the original one that came in my car. Move that out of the way. Now this is my original one. As you can see, it's dirty. Was having no issues with it. I just wanted to, while I had it off, it's kind of one of those things, go ahead and change it. It's not going to hurt anything. Mine was about 135 bucks. I got it from a company on eBay called New Parts. But just be careful, and when you order one, make sure if it has this, look for this vacuum port, because I ordered one and I wasn't paying attention, and I ordered one without the vacuum port on it, and I had to return it to get one with the vacuum port. So, but I got it from the same company, and real fast service, quick shipping. But what I want to focus your attention on is, if you'll look real close, if you look at these side by side, there is no physical difference between the two. None at all. If you look right here, it's kind of hard to read upside down, but that says Pierberg, and that's the name of the company that manufacture these for BMW. Well, what does that say? Well, that says Pierberg too. Now, the only difference between these two pumps right here is that one of them, if you get it from the Benny dealership, is going to come in a box that has BMW Mini on it, and that's the only difference. And the cheapest I could find one, and then on eBay is where I was looking for this pump, but it's in a BMW Mini box. It was almost $300. I got this one for about $135 with free shipping. So if you just really want to get one from BMW that comes in a BMW box, that's fine. But I did want to show you that there is no physical difference in them, and it's actually the same company makes them for Mini, and they also sell them, they call it an OEM manufacturer. So I wanted to point that difference out to you, so that way you can choose to get either one from BMW Mini, or you can get one from the OEM manufacturer. That's what I did. I decided to go ahead and change it since I already had it off. I'm going through all this work, and I did not want to have an issue later on of this vacuum pump locking up and starting having to do this all over again. So we'll get all of our stuff together and we'll get ready to put this thing in. Okay, we're back. Once again, just like on the high pressure fuel pump, you got to line this spline up here with the exhaust cam. So we'll slide that in there, and then you'll rotate it to where you can actually start the bolt. And then also on this one we have this bracket that we have to put on, which actually supports the cooling line. So don't forget to put that on. That bolt goes down here. Alrighty, so that's an 8mm. So we'll spin that in there. It already comes with a new O-ring on it, so we don't have to worry about putting a new O-ring on it. And just like we did before, we'll just snug it down. Torque it into place. Before I torque it into place, I want to go ahead and get the bolt so that it's in the right place. I torque it for to hook up to attach the cooling line. But I'm gonna take it off so that I can put the turbocharger in. But I'm just gonna run this down here. Just snug it so that this bracket's in the correct position. Alright, so now that it's snug down there, we can go ahead and take this bolt back off, since it's just there to help me position the bracket. Alright, now we just got to torque that into place. And I'm looking at the torque values. I don't see anything in the Chiltons on a torque value, so I'm gonna look that up, and then I'll let you know before I post the video. I'll let you know what that is supposed to be. But while I'm looking for that, I will go ahead and pause the video, and I'll let you know when I come back.